We're going to talk about audience targeting techniques using Facebook ads. So if your business is competing in a space where there are some big brands, then you can consider using those brands and targeting people who are interested in those brands and liking their Facebook page. Now, this is not going to work if you're a small business and you're trying to target people who like the competitor down the street. This has to be larger sized audiences. So what you're going to do inside of your ad set in your ad manager, come down to detailed targeting, and we're just going to simply search for competitor brand names. So obviously the big brands like Nike and Adidas and Lululemon are going to be able to be targeted, but just search for competitors in your space and you might be surprised at some of the ones that show up. And what this means is when somebody is in this interest of Nike, they've either liked Nike's page or they've interacted on Facebook or Instagram with content related to Nike. So Facebook is in some way determining that that person is interested in Nike. So when you target people in that interest bucket, you're getting your ads in front of people who hopefully would be interested in your business as well. So that's technique number one. Technique number two is using affinity audiences. So we're inside the audience insights in Facebook's ad manager. So if you go to the menu in business tools, scroll down and you'll see audience insights. It looks like this. And so when you come into here on the left-hand side, you can identify an audience. Right now we're targeting people in the United States, aged 18 or older, both genders, who are interested in Gary Vaynerchuk. So we can see that this is an audience size of 2.5 to 3 million people in the United States. If we click on the page likes tab and we can scroll down, actually before we scroll down, we can look at these categories here. So these are pages that are of interest to people in this audience that we've defined. So this could be a good tool for audience research and understanding who your audience is, what they're interested in. It could be useful for writing copy. But what we're going to do is scroll down further, and in the page like section, we're going to look at audiences with a high affinity score. So what this means in this case is that this audience we've identified on the left, which is people interested in Gary Vaynerchuk, are 120 times more likely to like Tim Ferriss than the average Facebook user in the United States. Now, Gary V shows up because obviously people are more likely to like Gary Vaynerchuk's Facebook page. But in terms of finding audiences to target in your Facebook campaigns, this is a really good source, because if you're seeing success with an ad set that's targeting people who like Gary Vaynerchuk, then if you create a new ad set with people who are interested in Tim Ferriss, it might also see similar success because those people are similar. They have a high affinity. Now I look for an affinity score above 100. The lower the score is, the less in common they have with that audience that you used as your source, but you could still consider testing these as well. Now, a lot of these audience insight pages are not going to be able to be targeted in your Facebook ads. So just keep going through this list. Go back to your ads manager and keep typing them in until you do find audience interests that you could consider testing. The second thing, or the third thing rather, I'd recommend testing are life events. So you can target people based on certain things like they were newly engaged within the last year, within the last 3 months. This is interesting. Friends of newly engaged people. You can target people based on certain job occupations. So if we click on browse and then demographics, and then, if we go to life events first, you can see that we have away from family, away from hometown. They're in a long distance relationship. So there's lots of interesting things that we can target here. Work, we can go through, target specific employers, job titles, industries. If you just type the job title in here, it's possible that you can even find them. So where Facebook is pulling this from is when people update their Facebook profile with their job occupation, it's putting those people into a category that you can then target. So the caveat with this type of targeting is that a lot of advertisers also target these types of interests. And so there's going to be probably an increased amount of advertising competition, which means you'll see higher CPMs and your ad cost could ultimately be a bit higher. But if you have a relevant offer to somebody in this certain type of life event category, then it could be a good audience to test. Number 4 is to target broad age groups. So oftentimes what we will do, especially for clients who are operating in a specific city, is like, let's say we type in Calgary, of which the total targetable population is 1.1 million, I think. So that might be a little bit big, and maybe we know that our client's offer is relevant to people in a certain age group. What we could do is simply narrow this down to people aged, let's say 35 to 55. So that's going to bring our total audience size down from 1.1 million now to like 400,000, I believe, or so. Yeah, 470,000. So it makes that audience size a little bit more specific, but still broad enough that we can actually allow Facebook to optimize our campaigns effectively. Number 5 is to retarget the top visitors by time spent on your website. So this is a custom audience. We're inside the audiences tool in your ad manager. We're going to click on create a custom audience. And you can see we have a ton of options here. I'd encourage that you go through and take a look at some of these. But one of my favorites is go to website, and we're going to target the people who've spent the most amount of time on your website. So we could easily target all website visitors, but if you have a lot of traffic, a lot of that, the people that visit your site are going to be, low quality, people who are not really that interested. But if we target the people who spent the most time, the top 25% of our website visitors who spent the most time, that's going to be a more engaged audience and probably a higher quality audience to serve retargeting ads to. We could also derive a lookalike audience from that group as well. So we can do the top VTS for our entire website, or we could select a specific page. So maybe you have a sales page, or like an add to cart page, or maybe some kind of contact us page. Those would be great high intent pages to build this audience based on. Number 6 is to retarget 50% video viewers. So again, we're going to go back and create a custom audience. This time we're going to click on video. And so if you publish a video onto your Facebook page, or if you're advertising a video in your Facebook ads, what we can do is select that video and build an audience based on these parameters here. So people who watched at least 50% of it, 75% of it, 95% of it. So 50% is kind of a good metric. So what we do now is click onto this and select the specific video on our page. And we can say in the past 365 days, or you can narrow it down to the last 90 days or something like that. Give it a name and then click create. So what this is going to do is create a custom audience of all the people who watched at least 50% of a video. So again, if you have a sales video, a video that demonstrates that somebody would be very interested in your product or service, simply for the fact that they watched a good percentage of it, that would be a really great audience to retarget by building this custom audience, or also for building a lookalike audience from. Number 7 is to retarget key web pages. So again, like I said before, you would create a custom audience, but instead of top visitors by time spent, we would just say people who visited a specific page, and then the URL contains contact us or whatever the URL of that page is, and put those people into an audience. So this is a pretty common tactic for e-commerce strategies where you'll be retargeted if you reach the cart page but you didn't check out. That's when you'll be served ads that say something like, hey, were you forgetting something in your cart? Click here and we'll take you back to it. I'm sure you've been served those ads in the past. This is how they're achieving that. It's retargeting based on a very specific point that customer reached in the customer journey. And then number 8 is to build a lookalike audience from customers and from other custom audiences. So we're going to click on create a lookalike audience now. And then what you would need to do is select a source, which is a custom audience. So any of these custom audiences that we've talked about in the past, or if you have a list of customers, for example, what you could do is export that list of customers from your CRM or from your email list or from your Shopify store, and then you could upload them to Facebook as a custom audience. So you would do that by first creating a custom audience and then saying customer list. You would click next. You could include a column in that spreadsheet in that customer export based on the amount of revenue that you've earned from them. And then if you do that, you can click yes. And what Facebook's going to do is, instead of simply building a custom audience based on the total list, it'll actually prioritize the people who are spending the most money or who have earned you the most revenue. Then we would click next, accept the terms and conditions for uploading a custom audience. You can either download a list template and then populate it with your customer list, and then re-upload it, or you could just upload a CSV straight to through this button here, and then click next. So that's how you would create this custom audiences of customers from your website, and then you would click on create a lookalike audience, click here and select that custom audience that's now in your audiences in your account. What country? So if your customers are coming from Canada, you're going to want to select Canada. If they're coming from the States, you want to select the States. And then the audience size. So the percentage here we can adjust, and we can actually increase the amount of audiences that we want to create. And so what this is the percentage, is the percentage of total targetable people in this country that you select. That's going to be the size of this lookalike audience that you create. So let's say we uploaded a customer list of 500 customers in Canada, and I know that the total targetable population in Canada, the Facebook users in Canada, is about 25 million people. And so if I created a 1% lookalike for people in Canada, that would be an audience size of 250,000. That's because 250,000 is 1% of 25 million. Now, if I created a 2% lookalike audience, then that would be an audience size of 500,000 people. If I dragged this over here, this would be a 1% to 2%, so that's really only 1%. So that would be 250,000 people in size. So what this means is that of the total possible people in Canada that we can target of 25 million people, Facebook's going to build a list of the 1% or 250,000 people that most closely resemble this custom audience that you've uploaded. So it's going to look at the patterns, the things that these people are interested in, the pages that they're engaging with, demographic characteristics and whatnot, where they're located, and it's going to find the 250,000 people, other people in Canada who most closely resemble those people, and build a new audience of them. Now, if we did this would be the next 250,000 people that closely resemble. So not the first percent, but that next 250,000 people, and so forth. And if we did this would be the top 500,000 people who most closely resemble your custom audience. So the closer you are to 0, the more closely that custom or that lookalike audience is going to resemble this custom audience, which means that you're probably going to see a higher conversion rate and ultimately a lower cost per result. Now, if your cost per result is very inexpensive for this 1%, 0 to 1% lookalike audience, it's possible that you could create a lookalike audience all the way over here, and even though they don't as closely resemble your source audience as this 1% does, these people could still be very qualified, and they still might produce a really inexpensive cost per result anyways. But to begin with, don't overcomplicate it. Create a 1% lookalike audience and derive that audience from first a customer list. If you don't have a customer list that's more than 300 people, that's probably not enough people for Facebook to create a statistically valid lookalike from, in which case you want to take a step back. So what action do people take before they purchase? They add to cart. So do you have 300 people who added to cart? Build a lookalike based on those people. If you don't have that many, then how many people visited your landing page? Do you have 300 of those people? Then you could consider creating a lookalike based on them. So the further back you back away from your ultimate conversion, your core offer, the less likely those people are going to opt in. It's not going to be based on people who are actually making purchase decisions, but they still could be really great sources for lookalike audiences. And like I said, any of the other custom audiences we talked about as well, like the 50% video view or the VTS 25%, those are great ones to make lookalike audiences based on as well. So I hope you gained some value from this video, some interesting audience targeting techniques using Facebook ads. If you're interested in receiving some marketing insights and having those insights sent straight to your email inbox, I have a breadcrumbs newsletter. There's a link for that below if you want to sign up. Otherwise, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.